Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Wednesday, August the 26th. We got 3 games today. Definitely a little bit of a, different slate than what we've been used to. It's still the same teams going all on the same day. Orlando, Milwaukee, OKC, Houston, and Portland, LA. We don't have Philly, Boston playing because, Boston's already eliminated the Sixers. They swept them. Just 3 games today, but like I said, it is a little bit of a different slate because we do know that Damian Lillard is going to be out for the Blazers. I think they pretty much, thrown in the towel. They pretty much know, they have no chance of winning this series most likely. Lillard, I'm pretty sure his, knee injury is pretty serious as well. They came out and said that, even if Portland somehow comes back and wins this series, there's still a chance that Lillard might not even play, in the playoffs. So yeah, that's going to be something we have to talk about. Lillard's going to be out for Portland. Right now the Lakers are huge favorites here, minus 14. There's definitely some blowout concern. But I'm still going to like a lot of Portland guys today. Taking Lillard off the floor, you're getting an insanely high usage player off the floor. That's going to allow guys like CJ McCollum, Yusuf Nurkic, Gary Trent, Anthony Simons. Those guys are going to soak up a lot of usage today. And we'll definitely be sure to touch on them as we do go through each position. But before we do get started, guys, as always, I would appreciate it if you would hit that like button down below. Make sure you do subscribe as well. If you are new here, I upload NBA videos pretty much every single day to this YouTube channel. Definitely would appreciate it if you would subscribe. Click that notification bell as well, so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos. And if you want to get more content from me, I do have stuff available on Patreon that is linked down below in the description. I will be running a $100 free roll contest for all my Patreon members. So if you are a Patreon member and you're watching this video, definitely, check Patreon, look at the post. I do have the link to join the free roll posted there. It'll be a winner take all. If you win that free roll, I will send you $100 PayPal cash coming out of my pocket. That's me giving back to you guys. I do want to support those that support my content on Patreon. So, if you're a Patreon member, get in that free roll contest. The link's posted on Patreon. If you're not a Patreon member and you've thought about joining, now might be a good time because you can get in that free roll contest and have a chance to win, $100. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and break down the slate. We will start off at point guard. So James Harden is our most expensive option here. He's $11,800 on DK. Harden coming in on Yahoo at $56. He's a shooting guard over there. So I talked about it in the last slate that Harden was on. Harden was going to be a guy that I was just going to keep playing. I'd played him every game so far in this series. He was in my lineups every slate. He was one of my highest owned players every slate. It finally paid off last game. We got our typical Harden with no Westbrook game. 43 minutes, 74 Draftkings points, had 32 points, 8 rebounds, 15 assists, 4 steals. Just your typical, game that Harden puts up. Whenever Westbrook is off the floor, Harden does have a usage rate like over 40%. I believe it's like right at 44%. Averages about 1.8 fantasy points per minute. This series is tied 2-2. Harden can't, take it easy here. They're going to need him to play as many minutes as he can handle. There's a good chance, he might even play the whole game. Like, we might legit see Harden play 45, 46 minutes today. I like him a lot at 11.8. The price only went up $100 on DraftKings. Like we saw last game, this is a guy that can easily go out there and get 70, 80 DraftKings points. He's still my favorite stud to pay up for. We do have some value here now that Portland's going to be without Lillard. That gives us some value on this slate, so I'm going to be trying to pay up for Harden yet again. He's my top stud on the slate. Just a guy that I want to have in as many lineups as I can. We have Giannis, you have AD, you have LeBron, but Harden's the guy that I like most. I think he's just the guy that has the most upside, also has the highest floor in my opinion. Going to play over 40 minutes, going to get all the usage, take a ton of shots, can contribute in all categories, can go out there and triple-double. Really like James Harden here. And then you have like LeBron you could go to. I just don't know if LeBron's going to be a guy I look to build around. He's $1,000 less than Harden, so you're getting a bit of savings. There is some concern here, though, about blowout. I'm going to play this game just assuming it stays close. I like a lot of guys on Portland, guys like CJ McCollum, Nurkic, Simons, Trent. Obviously, if this game blows out, then guys like Simons and Trent, might still get there, but McCollum and Nurkic going to have their minutes cut in a blowout. Probably not going to get there in terms of fantasy production either. A blowout would definitely hurt LeBron. We saw that last game against Portland, or last game in Game 4 against Portland. He still had 57 DraftKings points, so he wasn't terrible, but he did lose a lot of minutes because of the blowout. They won that game by 20 points. I believe they were up like 30 at the end of the third quarter. LeBron did not play at all in the fourth quarter. If you expect this game to stay close, or if you just assume this game stays close, and LeBron plays his normal minutes, I mean, he looks like a pretty solid pay-up option. He's been very productive in this series, besides Game 2, where they were just dominant defensively and were able to win that game by like almost 30 points or over 30 points. Besides Game 2, LeBron's been really good with 73, 68, and 57 DraftKings points. I just don't know if I can play him over Harden. I know he's cheaper, but Harden's still the guy that I want to go to here. He's my favorite stud. And then you got these mid-range guys. So Chris Paul, CJ McCollum, SGA, just some of the options here. I've been, on Chris Paul a good amount, but I can't go to him on this slate because CJ McCollum's the guy that I like most today. He's 8,100 on DraftKings. They did bump up his price for Lillard being out, but I don't think they bumped it up enough. I think McCollum should be close to 9K when you take Lillard off the floor. I mean, we'll take a look at his numbers this season with Damian Lillard off the floor just so you guys can see. I mean, Lillard is such a high usage player. Getting him off is obviously going to be very beneficial for McCollum. We know Trevor Ariza, Rodney Hood, those two guys are also out, so we can take them off the floor. We can take Zach Collins off the floor because he's out, and then obviously we'll take Lillard off as well. So that's technically, 4 guys that are going to be out for the Blazers today. Looking at the numbers so far, these are only for regular season. These don't include what's been going on in the bubble, or I think they do include, the bubble seeding games, but not the playoff games. So McCollum's played 430 minutes with all those guys off the floor, has a 34.3% usage rate, averaging 1.17 fantasy points per minute. Honestly, I feel like that's a bit low. I feel like here in the playoffs, we're probably going to get an average of like 1.35, 1.4 fantasy points per minute from CJ McCollum. There was a stretch during the regular season where Lillard was out, and we saw McCollum, consistently putting up 45, 50 DraftKings points a night. His price got up to, I believe, like 9K, 9,100. That's what he should be priced today. He's going to play huge minutes if it's a close game. If they keep this game close, it's going to be very likely that, CJ McCollum is the reason why. He's going out there and putting up a big game. If it stays close, I expect, probably 36, 38 minutes from McCollum, potentially 40 minutes. Going to play, a lot of point guard. Going to have the ball in his hands a lot with Lillard off the floor. Sees his usage spike a ton. I mean, his usage spikes. Let's see if I can find it real quick. So he sees a 7.9%, so nearly an 8% bump in usage when you take all those guys off the floor. I mean, that is a huge spike for McCollum. He's my favorite guy in the mid-range. I do prefer him over Chris Paul today. I haven't played McCollum like at all during these series. I rarely play McCollum whenever the whole team's healthy, but that's not the case today. Lillard's out, so that's the main reason you really want to go to McCollum. I think there's easy 50-point upside for him if he can, if he can will this team to somewhat of a close game. I don't think Portland really has a chance to win this game, but if they can keep it within like 10 points heading into the fourth quarter and McCollum plays his full minutes, that's really all that we need here. We don't need Portland to win this game. We just need Portland to keep it close enough to where McCollum is going to be out there in the fourth quarter. I still think the Lakers, pretty easily win, but as long as they can keep it somewhat close, that's going to be good for us. So I'm just going to play these guys, hoping the game stays close, hoping McCollum can, produce enough to keep the game close, to put the team on his back, really. So he's the guy that I like most here, 8,100. Like I said, do prefer him over CP3. I do still like SGA. SGA was someone I liked a lot last slate. He got off to a really hot start. Still finished with a solid game, 44 DraftKings points in 44 minutes. But definitely was a bit disappointing given that he scored I think 20 fantasy points in the first quarter. But he played huge minutes in that game, 44 minutes. I'm pretty sure that game, I'm not sure if that game went to overtime or not, if that was in regulation. I think he played 44 minutes in regulation. They're running SGA into the ground. The series is tied 2-2. It's anybody's game here. I think we get over 40 minutes from SGA again. At 7,400, he definitely is appealing. I think given the savings, I probably do prefer him over Chris Paul today. So if I'm going to target one of those guys from the Thunder backcourt, I think it's going to be SGA. I don't mind Schroeder either. He's 6,400. His price is coming up, but he's going to probably play, over 30 minutes. Should be pretty productive as well. Last 2 games, 46 and 36 DraftKings points. I mean, Schroeder is a guy that's productive when he gets minutes. He averages right around a fantasy point per minute on the season. You like the matchup against Houston. Houston does play at a fast pace, one of the fastest paced teams in the league. So I definitely like Schroeder. I think SGA is my favorite Thunder guard, but Schroeder's definitely in play as well. He looks pretty appealing on Yahoo. I think that's where I probably like him the most. He's the same price as Eric Bledsoe. He's $20 over there. So, Schroeder probably looks the most appealing on Yahoo. SGA is also $30, which I think is a bit too cheap, but SGA is a shooting guard, which sucks. I really want to get Harden in. I really want to get McCollum in. I also really like Gary Trent, and he's shooting guard. He's $10. So it might be a bit tougher to play SGA. That's why I think, Schroeder for 20 looks most appealing there. But then some other guys, Markelle Fultz. I mean, this dude just absolutely screwed me over so far in the playoffs. I feel like every time I play him, he sucks. And then last slate, I didn't play him, and he actually had a good game. 35 DraftKings points in 31 minutes. I actually was on DJ Augustin last game, and he was terrible. Had like 18 DraftKings points. Honestly, I think these Magic guys, I'm probably going to be off both of them today. I don't plan on getting, much exposure to either one of Augustin or Fultz. I just think I would rather go to the Portland guys. Simons for 4K we're going to talk about. You got Gary Trent as well. I guess if I had to choose one of Fultz or Augustin, I think I probably would lean with Augustin, especially like on Yahoo where he's really cheap. He's coming in at $11. He's $7 less than Fultz. Simons did get priced up on Yahoo. He's up to $16. So yeah, I guess if I was going to play one of the Orlando guys, it would probably be Augustin. But honestly, on this slate, I don't think I'm going to have a ton of exposure to either one because I just like the Portland guys better. Anthony Simons, I like a lot here at 4K. So without Damian Lillard, I'm assuming either Simons or Gary Trent gets the start here. My best guess is it's most likely Simons, and then they continue to bring Trent off the bench. But we'll just have to wait and see. Even if Simons comes off the bench, I think he still plays around 30 minutes, if not more. He's pretty much going to get the minutes that Lillard was playing. I don't see Portland, getting away from. I mean, they have been running like an 8-man rotation recently. This could be a game where you maybe see them, bring a few more guys off the bench, especially if they just kind of throw it in the towel here. But if they want to have a chance to win this game, I think we see them, run a tight rotation again, give all their guys heavy minutes. Simon should get about 30 minutes off the bench, if not more. I like him a lot at 4K. He's going to be really hard to get away from on this slate. He's still pretty cheap on DraftKings. They did bump his price up. He was $3,300 last slate, 4K today. But that still feels a bit too cheap, given Lillard's out. Given he's probably going to play over 30 minutes. Simons definitely looks like a really good value play. I do like him on Yahoo as well, but I don't think he's as appealing there because they did price him up to $16. You do have Augustin for $5 less who you could play. Gary Trent's still minimum salary, so, I think I do prefer Gary Trent as well. Schroeder you also have for like 16, so between Schroeder you have Schroeder at 20, so between Schroeder for 20 or Simons for 16, I think if I can find the $4, I would probably rather play Schroeder. But on DraftKings, where Simons is coming in at 4K, I think he definitely looks like one of the better values today. On the season, he's only averaged about 0.75 fantasy points per minute this season with all these guys off the floor. He's not a great point per minute player, but he's going to see the minutes. Lillard was playing over 40 minutes a game. I think a lot of those minutes are going to go to Simons. Some of those minutes are going to go to Gary Trent as well. Maybe even CJ McCollum plays a few more minutes. I don't see them bringing an extra guy off the bench. Like, I know they have some guards they could bring off the bench. Like they have, I think they have, so Jalen Adams, I'm pretty sure. So he's with the team. He's playing. The only reason he played the last few games, though, was blowout. Sure, they could bring Jalen Adams here and let him get a few minutes. But like I said, it's the playoffs. Teams are running tight rotations. I have to assume Terry Stotts is just going to continue to run an 8-man, 7-man rotation here. And Simons, he hasn't been in the rotation recently, but now that Lillard's out, I do expect him to get a pretty big run today. So that's what I'm liking at point guard in terms of value plays. I don't think there's anyone else I really want to go to here. So let's talk about shooting guard now. You got SGA, Schroeder, we both talked about. I have interest in both those guys. Eric Gordon, I do still like quite a bit. He's 6,100 on DraftKings. Price did come up a little bit. He's 6K last slate, 6,100 today. But he just continues to produce good numbers. I mean, last game against OKC, he shot the ball somewhat well, 53% from the field, 37% from three. Finished with 33 DraftKings points, 23 points, 1 rebound, 3 assists, 2 steals. I mean, Gordon continues to shoot the ball somewhat poorly, which I think is killing his upside. Like, if he can just have a game where he knocks down like 50, 60% of his threes, where he's making a lot of shots, I mean, there's legit 40, 45-point upside for Eric Gordon. He's going to continue to get a ton of usage with Russell Westbrook off the floor. Going to take probably 15 to 20 shots a game. Going to be the second go-to scorer behind James Harden. I still like Eric Gordon quite a bit, even with his price coming up. I think he definitely is in play on DraftKings at 6,100. And I still like him a lot on Yahoo. They've been slowly bumping up his price, but you could argue, that he's still a bit too cheap at $20, given that he's been over 30 fantasy points in every game, or over 28 fantasy points in every game in the series. I mean, he's been about as consistent as it gets, and I think we've yet to get, that true ceiling game from Gordon. Like, he could go out there and put up 40, 45, I think, especially if he's really shooting the ball well. So I like him a lot on Yahoo as well. I'm still going to be on Eric Gordon, even with the price coming up. He's someone I've played a lot in this series, and I think I'm going to be back on him today, even at 6,100. But then you got guys like Fournier and Ross. Fournier 5,400, Ross 5K. I have no problem with these two guys. I just don't think they're going to be like core plays for me. They haven't really been core plays for me at all during this series besides Game 1. I did like Fournier a lot in Game 1, and he really sucked. I haven't played these guys much. I don't plan on playing a ton of them today. Fournier last game, 33 DK points in 36 minutes. That makes him a fine play at his price. Ross, 30 DK points in 31 minutes. Like, if both Ross and Fournier go for about 30, 35, they're going to be solid plays for their price, but they're not going to be guys that you have to have. You can definitely get away from not going to them. I think I'd rather play Gary Trent, to be honest. Gary Trent's 4,800 on Draftkings. He was incredible during the seeding games, playing big minutes off the bench. He was consistently putting up solid games. We saw him put up a massive game against Denver where he went for 43 DK points. So far in this series, he's been pretty terrible for DFS. 7, 11, 10, and 17 DraftKings points. Still getting pretty good minutes off the bench, though. But now with Damian Lillard out, that's more minutes to go around. Obviously, more usage to go around as well. If we take a look at Gary Trent's numbers, they're very similar to Simon's. About 0.75 fantasy points per minute with those guys off the floor. I still like Trent, though, at 4,800. I think he plays probably 34, 35 minutes today, maybe more. If he starts, I think he even picks up a few more minutes. Gary Trent is a guy that can score the ball. Without Lillard on the floor, they're going to need someone else to score besides CJ McCollum and besides Jusuf Nurkic. I think Trent's going to be a guy they look to for a good amount, a good amount of scoring opportunities. He's a guy that can, shoot three-pointers. He can get hot from the field. I know during the regular season he was on a stretch where he was like making a ton of shots, shooting like 60% from the field every night, and he just kept crushing at his price. I don't know if we're going to get him to shoot 60% from the field tonight, but definitely going to be more opportunity for Gary Trent now that Damian Lillard's out. I like him a lot at 4,800. I think with his price where it is, not many people are going to go to him on DK, but I still like him a lot at his price. On Yahoo, I think that's where he definitely looks the most appealing. He's minimum salary still. He's been minimum salary pretty much this whole series. At $10, he's a shooting guard, which sucks because you already have Harden and McCollum, who I both like at shooting guard. But you can play Trent at your util spot. I definitely like him at his $10 salary. I think that is way too cheap for Trent. Should get over 30 minutes here. Going to get more usage with Lillard off the floor. More opportunities, to put the ball in the basket. Going to have the ball in his hands a bit more as well. So I definitely like him, on both sides, especially Yahoo. But even on DK, I think he is pretty appealing at 4,800. But I don't think there's anyone else I want to go to at shooting guard. Danny Green, if the game stays close, is going to play about 30 minutes. He had one of his best games last game, 27 DK points in 25 minutes. I still don't know if I can go to Danny Green. He's just not a guy that I rarely play, so probably it for shooting guard. Let's go ahead and move on to the small forward position. So looking here, like Chris Middleton, 7,800. I'll be honest with you, I haven't played Chris Middleton at all so far in the playoffs. I don't plan on playing him today. Just not a guy that I feel like I have to have, especially when the Bucks are fully healthy. When Giannis is healthy, I just rarely play Chris Middleton unless he's like extremely cheap. And he's not really that cheap today. He's still 7,800. You need him to drop nearly 50 DK points to even be a guy you kind of like have to have at his price. And he just hasn't done that recently. Last few games, 39, 38, 17, 30, just not paying off his price tag. I know game log isn't everything, but I don't need to play Chris Middleton for 7,800. I'll look elsewhere. I'd rather go to some of these guys in the mid-range. I think Gallo for 6,300. Even though he sucked last game, I still have a good amount of interest in him. Without Damian Lillard, I think that is a boost for Melo. Melo should have more opportunities to shoot here. We know Melo isn't afraid to shoot as well. This is a guy that when he has the ball in his hands, he's looking to score. Lillard won't be there to take the ball out of his hands, so I definitely think Melo is a pretty appealing option at 5,900. He also was pretty bad last game, but pretty much the whole Blazers team was bad. Nobody did well for the Blazers. At least none of their starters really did, so I'm not really going to let that scare me off them today. Without Lillard, just so much usage to go around. I think playing 3, 4, I doubt I would play 5 Blazers in one lineup, but I think 4 Blazers in one lineup, is definitely a way you can go today. If the game stays close, you're going to need these guys to win, in my opinion. I think if the game stays close and it's a relatively high-scoring game, I wouldn't be surprised to see 3 or 4 Blazers in the winning GPP lineup on this slate. There's a very good chance a lot of these guys pay off their price tags, as long as it does stay close. Now, if the game blows out, these guys are obviously going to be disappointing, but this is just one of those scenarios where I'm just going to pray the game stays close and just play the guys that I think have the most upside, which is, McCollum Anthony, Simons, Trent. We'll talk about Nurkic as well. But then other small forwards, Daniel House, I have no problem with him. Continues to get big minutes, 5,500, price coming up a little bit, but going to play 34 to 36 minutes as long as the game is close. So I have interest in him. James Ennis, as long as Aaron Gordon remains out, I don't mind him. Never a guy I feel like I have to have. Going to play probably about 30 minutes if the game is close. Not a very high usage player, not a very productive player, but still cheap, should get the minutes. I don't mind him at 4,400. Dort as well, not a high usage player, not a great fantasy point per minute player, but going to play big minutes, 34 to 36 minutes. He's been the primary defender on James Harden so far. For 4,200, you could definitely go to Dort as a value. Him and Ennis are fine for small forward cheap plays. But honestly, that's probably it for me at the position. I don't see much here under 4K that I really want to go to. Danny Green, KCP, both going to play close to 30 minutes, but both are so low usage, or both are incredibly low usage players, just not going to do much for DFS. So that's really it for small forward. Let's move on to power forward now. At the top here, you got Giannis and AD. Giannis 11-3, AD 10-5. So I think behind James Harden, Giannis is probably my second favorite stud. He's pretty much been my second favorite stud almost every slate behind Harden. He's been about as consistent as it gets. Even in games where the Bucks have, easily won, Giannis is still putting up over 60 DraftKings points. He's put up 59 plus DK points in every game so far in this series. I still think Harden gives you a higher floor and a higher ceiling, but obviously Giannis is a solid play here. Going to play about 32 to 34 minutes as long as the game is close. There's definitely blowout concerns in this game, but there's blowout concerns in the Blazers-Lakers game, and I'm still playing Blazers guys today, so I wouldn't let blowout scare me off Giannis today. Even if the game does blow out, it's a very good chance that Giannis is the reason why, and he still put up a solid game for his, in his limited minutes, still was able to pay off his price. So I do like Giannis. I just can't play him over Harden. If I can find a way to get Giannis and Harden together, maybe that'll be something I'll look into when I start building lineups tomorrow. AD for 10-5, was incredible last game, just got hurt, only played 18 minutes, but was insanely productive with 37 DraftKings points in those 18 minutes. He looks like, or he's going to be able to play today. They've already come out and said he's expected to play, so don't worry about the back issue. Sure, they can maybe limit him in a game that they should easily win, but I'm just going to assume that AD plays his normal minutes here. I'm going to assume the game stays close, so, AD is definitely in play for 10-5. I still like Giannis a little bit more if I can get to Giannis, but no problems with AD. No problems with LeBron either. I just don't think these are going to be like core studs for me. I think Harden's going to be my core stud. I'm going to have a lot of CJ McCollum. And if I'm playing Harden and McCollum in a lot of lineups, it's going to be very tough to get, one of these two guys. So maybe I'll have to sacrifice with one of Harden or McCollum if I want to get in, Giannis or AD. But obviously these guys are good plays on a 3-game slate where we really only have 4 stud options. But then you got a guy like Yusuf Nurkic. So Nurkic has been pretty bad in this series, but he did look much better last game. Only played 27 minutes due to the blowout, but was still very productive with 43 DraftKings points. I think this is a spot where I definitely want to get on Nurkic. His price tag is still somewhat expensive on DraftKings. He's still 8,600. But without Lillard, that does give a boost to Nurkic. He's not played a ton this season with Lillard off the floor. Let me see if I can pull up the numbers real quick. I'm sure it's a very small sample size because, these guys have Nurkic really has only played during the playoffs. I don't think we even have, we don't get sample sizes on Court IQ from the playoffs. During the regular season, we only have a 19-minute sample of Nurkic without Lillard, so we don't really even want to go by that. He's only averaged a fantasy point, or 1.09 fantasy points per minute in 19 minutes without Lillard, but I'm not really going to, look at those numbers too heavily given the small sample size. I think without Lillard, that is a little bit of a boost for Nurkic. Lillard is a very high usage player. We could definitely see the offense maybe run through Nurkic more than it normally would. We know Nurkic is an incredibly, productive player when he gets minutes. If this game stays close, I said it earlier, very good reason will be because guys like Nurkic and CJ McCollum are playing very well. So I still do like Nurkic quite a bit. I haven't really been on him lately, but I'm definitely going to be on him today. I think he looks most appealing, though, on Yahoo. His price just continues to plummet over on Yahoo. At the beginning of this series, he was $38 in Game 1, and today he's down to $30. You are getting a very big discount on Nurkic. I like him at $30. I think he's an incredible play at that price tag. If this game stays close, I think there's legit 50, 60-point upside for Nurkic. The offense is going to run through Nurkic. It's going to run through McCollum. Those are going to be the two highest usage players on this or in this game if I had to guess. So those are the two guys I like most. Obviously, the value plays, though, with Simons, Trent, Melo as well. Those guys are definitely viable, too. But I really like Nurkic on Yahoo. I like him on DK as well. It's just tougher to get him in since we already paid up for CJ, already paid up for Harden. And Nurkic is expensive on DraftKings. He's not as expensive on Yahoo. But other guys, Gallo, Melo, House, we talked about them. I like them. James Ennis is fine as well. If Aaron Gordon remains out, he's questionable heading into today. I think Gary Clark is viable as a cheap option. He's been starting recently without Aaron Gordon. Been playing at least 27, 28 minutes. Might even get around 32, 34 minutes. He's $4,200. He's pretty cheap. I don't mind him as a value play. He is minimum salary, $10 on Yahoo. So if you're trying to build around like Harden and McCollum and Nurkic, if you're trying to get those three guys in your lineup, you're going to have to find value somewhere. So I think, Gary Clark at $10 as a power forward value makes plenty of sense on Yahoo, plenty of sense on DraftKings as well, as long as Gordon remains out. Luckily, this is the first game on the slate, so we will have news on Aaron Gordon before lock. My best guess is he probably sits out. Let's just be honest, Milwaukee's probably going to win this game whether Aaron Gordon plays or not. The series is going to be over after today, most likely. I don't really see the Magic winning this game, so I'm just going to assume Gordon still remains out, which makes Gary Clark a play, a viable play for cheap, $4,200 on DK, $10 on Yahoo. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and move on to center. We covered everything at power forward, so let's break down the center position real quick. So you do have Vooch here at the top for $9,200. I haven't really been on Vooch at all. He was actually really good last game. They still lost, but he played 38 minutes, had 63 DraftKings points. If the Magic can even keep this game somewhat close, it's very likely that Vooch is the reason why. He's putting up a big game. He's expensive though. He's $9,200. There is some blowout concern here. There's some blowout concern with the Blazers game. But like I said, I'm still playing guys in that game. I wouldn't let blowout scare me off of Vooch. If you think the Magic keep it close and Vooch, or if you think the Magic keep it close, you should probably be playing Vooch because he's going to be the main reason why. I just don't think I can play him over Nurkic. I think I do prefer Nurkic today for cheaper. Especially on Yahoo, Vooch is coming in at $40, so you have Nurkic for $10 less. Those are pretty big savings. I like the savings there. Even at a $600 difference, which isn't too drastic, I still think Nurkic is the guy that I like most between Vooch and Nurkic. I like Nurkic the most. If I'm paying up at center, if you're not playing AD here, Nurkic is my favorite guy. And then you got Jeff Green, Steven Adams, Brolo, Whiteside. So Jeff Green, I've been on a lot recently. I think you can definitely go back to him today. He wasn't great last game, only 21 DraftKings points, but still played 32 minutes. He's played at least 32 minutes in every game in this series. Going to get 32 to 34 minutes today. Even though he comes off the bench, he still should be very productive. I do have interest in Jeff Green in the mid-range. Between Green, Adams, or Lopez, I definitely prefer Jeff Green between those three guys. Whiteside was someone that I was pretty high on last slate, and he was really disappointing. He did get the start, but only played 17 minutes, just 18 DraftKings points. I'm assuming that Whiteside continues to start. Without Nurkic or without Lillard, I think that is a slight boost for Whiteside just because of Lillard, a high usage player, a guy that's going to take a ton of shots. Maybe you see Whiteside, be a little bit more aggressive than he normally would. But still, he's going to play alongside Nurkic for a good amount, and Nurkic we know is a high usage player as well. Playing alongside Nurkic is not good for Whiteside. That definitely hurts his fantasy upside and his fantasy value. But he will get some time on the floor when Nurkic is off the floor, and that's when I expect he will most likely be most productive. At $4,900, we don't have a ton of value today. We do have some guys from, Portland. We got Simons, we got Trent, but these guys aren't $3K. You're still having to pay a bit for them. So if you want to build around Harden and McCollum, you're going to have to play these cheap guys like Trent, Simons. I think Whiteside can go into that category as well. Even though Whiteside was disappointing last game, I still like him a good amount for $4,900. I assume he plays about mid-20s in minutes as long as the game is close and as long as he isn't in foul trouble. And Whiteside, we haven't seen it yet, but we know he has big-time upside. Can get you a double-double, can block a ton of shots. I still like him. Gary Clark, we talked about as well. You could go to if Aaron Gordon remains out. P.J. Tucker, I guess he's not the worst play today. He's going to play big minutes. You never know what you're going to get from P.J. Tucker, but he's somewhat cheap, $4,300. Going to play close to 40 minutes if I had to guess. So if you want to go to him, I don't mind that. But I think we covered everything for center, guys. I think we broke it all down. Definitely an interesting slate today. I think this is a slate where I'm just going to be playing a lot of these Portland guys and just praying the game stays close. It's just so hard for me to get away from them when you have Lillard off the floor. Like, Lillard is such a high usage player. He's a guy that takes like 30 shots a game. I mean, there's a chance Portland just comes out here and absolutely sucks and they lose by 30 and all these guys, are disappointing for their price. But there's also a chance that Portland comes out here and plays well and you see guys like CJ McCollum and Nurkic and Simons just crush value, which I think is also a possibility. Like I said, I'm just going to play these guys and hope the game stays close. And if it does, I think they're all going to be really good plays. They're going to be guys that you want in your lineup. So that's just my thoughts on these three games today, on this 3-game slate. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I really do appreciate you watching. If you did enjoy, hit that like button down below before you get out of here. Hit the subscribe button as well. Click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. And like I said at the beginning of the video, if you want to get more content from me, that is available on Patreon. The Patreon is linked down in the description. If you do join the Patreon, by the time this slate starts, you will be able to join our $100 free roll contest. You'll have a chance to win $100. It'll be a winner-take-all contest. If you win, just message me on Patreon, show me that you won, and I will PayPal you $100. That's money that's coming out of my pocket, giving back to you guys, giving back to those that support my content on Patreon. So check that out, link down below in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed. I really do appreciate you watching the video. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.